It is WDAY's Weather and Ag in Focus. Thank you for being here today. Yet another excellent day of all sorts of ag to talk about. Um, I will say it's breezy and chilly out there. Maybe not quite as breezy as in chilly. I don't feel like I have to put weights in my shoes, but I'm not gonna say it isn't tough. It, whew. In fact, as I was walking into an appointment this morning, I had a older farmer walking out, and he said, "Hey, just a heads up, I wouldn't plant your corn today." So take that advice, everybody. Maybe today is not your corn planting kind of day. To that extent, I had a conversation with a grower up in the northern end of the Red River Valley. It said up there, soil temps have really remained stuck in the low 40s, not crossing that critical 50-degree threshold. Wheat, spring wheat planting process is mired, really sub 20%, very few acres at the time that he and I were visiting about this. Sugar beets have gone in, probably more so than some other crop, but I wouldn't say that it's a runaway as of yet. And a lot of people in that region, we're talking about Hellock, Lancaster, et cetera, they were really feeling coming out of winter, they were optimistic, shallow frost depth, only 1 to 2 feet, thought we'd have a real quick warm up, but into April and May hasn't cooled off yet. Most people have been okay with not doing a lot of their planting, but May 25th is the final planting date for a couple of counties up there. That's their final planting date for corn, and it's getting closer and closer all the time. So the discussion on preventive plant is happening. That clock, you might say, is ticking just a little bit more loudly. So there's some updates, if you will, on what's happening in some of our growing regions around the area. Well, as we talk today, you know how much I love phone calls. Happy to hear from all of you. You are welcome to reach out on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. First of all, I would love it if you just check on Addison. Make sure he's doing all right in the control room today. Is it 78 degrees in there, or is it better, Addison?
78 degrees and cloudy.
I'm so sorry, sir. It's actually way cooler outside today. It's probably only going to get to be about 47 degrees outside.
You know what? I'm
Can
actually
you
starting
move
to get
that board
used
out
to
there?
it.
you you've become acclimated to living in a small sauna?
Yeah, a little bit. I go
I
home
don't
and
know
I'm
if this is
cold now.
is it helpful in the fact that at least it's not the 25-mile-an-hour winds in your office the same way it would be outside right now?
I would take the wind, though.
A little breeze wouldn't hurt
Yeah, no, a little breeze
because
wouldn't hurt.
the little fan can only do so
It
much.
can
I'm so
only do
sorry.
so much, but bless its little motory heart, it is trying its best today.
Well, again, for those who want to check out Addison for the How is Addison fan club, that's 701-293-9000. That's the JLA Insurance phone line. You can also go ahead and send me questions and comments. You can reach out also via my email, and that is ag@flagfamily.com. As your ag director, I'm more than happy to do my homework when you ask and answer any questions you might have. And if I don't know, I will go find out. Our YouTube, Facebook, and Acres TV live streams are brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. They do an outstanding job of marketing grain, and right now, with all the volatility that's been happening in the market, you might want to give them a call. It would be worth your time to go check them out at lighthousecommodities.com. Well, here in Weather and Ag in Focus will be a busy day. One of the topics I wanted to cover, okay, everybody watch out. Here I come on my soapbox. I will try not to choose violence, but we'll see how it goes. Uh, Billie Eilish, you know what? Frankly, I don't care how you pronounce her name because she's made me mad. She is an American pop music singer and songwriter, and she has publicly made the statement as of late, you can eat meat, you can eat animals, but you can't do both. Oh, Billie, you poor misguided little soul. Actually, animals who are raised by farmers and producers in our region have the most care than any other animal you can possibly imagine. They are well looked after. They are made sure to live in good comfort, have quality feed, as well as veterinary attention as needed. Now, are those animals raised for meat consumption later in or at the end of their life? Yes, yes, they are. As human beings, we have a tendency to want to eat protein and a fair amount of it. Any of those animals that we raise as livestock species, beef, dairy, goat, sheep, and others, chickens, those animals are well loved and well cared for. And yes, in fact, You can love animals and you can also still eat meat. It can go both ways. I don't know if Billy's going to give us a call today. Wouldn't that be fun if she decided to dial up the JLA insurance phone line and we could have a lively discussion along those lines? Ready for that phone call, Addison? I'll email her people if that helps.
That would make me panic. Please don't.
You don't have to panic. I'm the one who's happy to talk to her. You just have to answer the call.
Okay, would it be a lot of talking though, or would it be a lot of like screaming and maybe like a couple expletives in there? Because I can only press the dump button so many times.
Well, maybe on her part. Here's the thing you should keep in mind. I might get excited about topics and be happy to talk about them, debate them, always on well-founded common sense. I don't like to rely on emotion for that. But those who know me well will tell you that it's not if I am lively and yelling that you should be worried. The worst of it comes when I become extremely calm. Then you realize things are about to get nasty. So bear that in mind.
Noted.
Yeah, evil grin, evil laugh given. Now, we were talking about the weather in your production room, but also outside. Again, it's a balmy 47 degrees out there. I know you would appreciate it if it was inside for you. Tomorrow, good chance we're going to get over 50 though. We're probably in the 50s for a couple of days. As we get towards the tail end of the week, we might even hit the 60-degree mark. But our days are looking to be mostly cloudy, and we're still getting those overnight temperatures, at least for the next couple, down into the 20s, certainly in the 30s. So not seeing a huge warm up. Often by this time in May we would, but we're just not quite there yet. We will make it work. Thing is, as I've often said, we always plant a crop. We're going to get there, folks. I'm sure of it. When we talk about a crop, so often we focus on corn, soybeans, wheat, but how about those sunflowers? They are a fan favorite, especially of those who like to get on out there and take photographs of them. But when you think about sunflower production here in North Dakota, I've had many comments from listeners saying, well, how come I don't see nearly as many sunflowers as I used to in the Fargo-Moorhead area? There have been other crops that have replaced them for a couple of reasons. One, we certainly have access to markets that really reflect the desire for corn and soybean, number one. Two, for a lot of years, because of the heavy, wet rainfall, the heavy, wet soils that we had due to a high amount of rainfall, we saw that sunflowers really didn't thrive here. And so we saw sunflower production move further west into North Dakota. One of the other reasons is birds, blackbirds, disease. Those, once you have disease in the soil, it's going to stick around and you're going to continue to have white mold issues throughout those sunflowers for many years. So the acres have probably moved to what you would consider areas that had less disease pressure. We've grown sunflowers in North Dakota so frequently that it's still something we have to look out for. Not only can disease pressure be a problem, but if you get into central South Dakota, spotted sunflower midge or banded sunflower midge is a bigger issue for them down there as well. And so between the disease, the bugs, and then the birds, that Devil's Lake area is really great habitat. And so you have blackbirds that have water right close by to what they consider a buffet, and that's a sunflower field, and that can make a difference as well. But the market right now is talking about an uptake in sunflower production. We are looking at our projections for 2025 really to increase. We are looking at about 2.3 billion pounds to be produced, and that's almost 200 million pounds higher than what we were doing a year ago. The crush plants, where we take sunflower seeds to be crushed to oil, because there's two kinds. There's an oil kind, and then there's the I enjoy them at a baseball game kind, the confectionaries. Those crush plants are offering new crop cash with active God production contracts for high oleic seeds. So let's explain what those things are. The market has shifted and buyers want oils, so sunflower oil, that have higher amounts of monosaturated fats and saturated fat levels at or below 7%. High oleic sunflower oil really fits that bill. Active God clause is not uncommon in many contracts in crop commodities. That basically means you don't have a production risk. Should there be drought, hail, bugs, disease, as a result, you have a lower yield loss, then you wouldn't have enough production per acre to cover your sale in the contract, the active God clause kicks in. You're only obligated to deliver what you produced, not what you contracted. Sunflower is the only oilseed that pays premiums for oil content above 40%, making it yet again an attractive price and something that folks are interested in maybe planting. We normally won't see sunflower acres planted until later into the season. Right now, we're still having that big focus on still some wheat going in, finishing up the sugar beets, and then of course corn and soybeans. Had a lot of folks say they're going to hold off on planting corn until potentially later this week with the hope that we do get into the 60s and some warmer temperatures. Oh, that's just a few of the headlines. So many more things to come. And especially because we are going to be joined by two of our nurse educators for our Fit Farmer Focus. We'll be joined by Murch and Chelsey Kuznia, and they are here to talk about Stroke Awareness Month. There's a lot going on in May. It is Beef Month. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. Now we're going to talk about strokes, the warning signs, and so much more when we return from the Livestock Market Update with the American Ag Network. Today is Fit Farmer Focus with Essentia Health. This is a fantastic day. I look forward to the opportunity to visit with our educators coming over from Essentia Health. They do a wonderful job of being here in studio. We have Molly Murch and Chelsey Kuznia. Ladies, this is not your first go around. In fact, you've been really helpful to us in the past. So a big thank you for coming back. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do over at Essentia. And frankly, you haven't always worked with stroke awareness. I think you both have broader backgrounds. So I'm going to ask Chelsey to start with that. Just give us a little bit of a background and then what you do now, and we'll have Molly do the same.
Excellent. Yeah, so my name's Chelsey. I've been a nurse for just about 11 years. And I started my career as a nurse on our medical surgical unit. And in that unit, I got to take care of stroke patients. And so that kind of inspired me to one day find this position. So I've now been in this role as the stroke program manager for just over 4 years.
Outstanding. All right, Molly, how about you?
Hello, thanks for having me back. My name is Molly Murch, and I am the stroke program educator here at Essentia Health in Fargo. I've been a nurse for 16 years. Started off similar to Chelsey. I was on the med-surg resource team, went and worked in the general surgery clinic, and then got my master's in nurse education and found my way to the stroke world, which I think Chelsey can agree this is our home where I think we're probably going to retire. And so we love our stroke patients.
So, Molly, as you talk to patients, how apprehensive are they to start? I mean, my guess is you find yourselves providing a great deal of comfort along with education to your patients. Talk a little bit about what you do in that situation with folks.
Great question. So yeah, it's one of the scariest times that people can experience, not only the patient, but also the family member or friends who are involved at that moment when the patient is coming in and they're being told, you're having a stroke. So yes, Chelsey and I both more so provide support to the nurses who are at the bedside caring for these patients, making sure that there's, everything is being done correctly. We always say time is brain, so make sure that we're getting patients to where they need to get to and things taken care of. And then, of course, I'm always good about holding the patient's hand and talking with the family, so that's a huge part of what we do as well.
Growing up, and granted I'm a little older than both of you, but I consistently remember thinking that folks who'd had a stroke were going to be pushed into a life of physical, loss of physical attributes, right? They would likely have one side of their body that didn't function very well. In many cases, it affected their speech, their brain activity. It was almost like a death sentence in a way because it changed your life so drastically. But that's not necessarily the case. Things have changed in that regard, right? I mean, having a stroke doesn't necessarily mean your life has ended in any way.
Yeah, it's amazing now the treatments that we have available. I think what's most important about that is that they're time sensitive. And so that's why when we do this stroke education, we say call 911, get help right away. We can give you medication to hopefully bust up that clot if it's a clot that's sitting there. We can do surgery to remove a clot or to, if it's a bleeding stroke, to remove the blood from that area as well. And I think we do a lot more education for patients now too on their risk factors. And so hopefully we can prevent you from even having the stroke in the first place because we're controlling your risk factors. Things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, your diet, making sure you exercise, all of those things put you at a higher risk for having stroke. So if we're controlling those risk factors, hopefully we can prevent you from even having to come meet us in the hospital.
So I'm going to ask this from the perspective of I am the farmer in the tractor, and I'm starting to think, especially because we're in the midst of planting, right? I'm starting to think something might not be quite right. Or on the converse, so I want Molly to answer it that way, but on the converse, Chelsey, if I'm watching the farmer, if I'm working with my farming partner, if I am the spouse, what would be the signs that would cause me concern that maybe a stroke is happening?
Let's start with the Be Fast acronym. So when we think about a patient who's having a stroke, we want you to be fast, but it also is our acronym to know the signs and symptoms of stroke. So with that being said, B is for balance. So sudden issues with balance or sudden dizziness. E is for eyes. So changes in your vision, whether it's loss of vision, double vision, just a quick change, a sudden change. F stands for face. So facial droop, it almost looks like their face might be melting. They could have numbness and tingling in that side of the face. A is for arm weakness. It could involve their leg as well, so that whole one side of their body could be completely paralyzed or just weak. Also could be numbness and tingling in that side of their body. Speech difficulty, and there's a lot of different areas of our brain that control speech. So you commonly hear slurred speech or garbled speech, but it could be that they can't get words out. They say wrong words. you're talking to them and they can't understand what you're saying. So there's lots of different areas in the brain that speech can be affected. And then T is for time to call 911. Like we said, our treatments are time sensitive for stroke. So we really need you to get to the hospital quickly. And T can also stand for terrible headache. That's often a symptom of our bleeds in our brain. And so we want to make sure that we include that as well.
Molly, if I think I'm having any of these symptoms, you know how we are. We're going to reason through it. Is that really what my problem is? Okay, so what should I be asking myself, or should I just call somebody else and say, "Come over here and be fast at me. Tell me if I'm okay."
So I always tell patients that you know your body. You've been living in your body for how long? If at any time you sense that something's not right, that's your brain's way of saying, hey, something's not right. I'm maybe not getting the blood flow to my brain like I need, or like Chelsey said, it's a terrible headache. Farmers are notorious to say, I'm just stressed because it's that time of year. But if all of a sudden you have a sudden worst headache of your life on one side of your brain, that's very concerning that there might be a bleed going on. And so, again, we always tell our patients, if it's not your normal, that's your brain's way of saying, hey, something's wrong, come to the hospital, get checked out. And if it's not a stroke, that's good. We'll figure out what else is going on.
And can I add to that, too, that we have something called a transient ischemic attack, and that is what we consider a warning stroke. So your symptoms maybe only last 20 minutes, so you write it off. You're like, well, I'm fine now. But that could lead to a full-blown stroke. And so even if your symptoms come and go, and it could even happen a couple different times, still get in, get checked out, because we may be able to save you from having a full-blown stroke.
There's so many other things we need to talk about here. There's different types of strokes.
Yes.
There are, again, some of those life choices. What might recovery look like post-stroke? One of the things that just came to mind is if I feel that I'm having that, I don't remember the title you gave me, Chelsey, but I'm going to say it's like my precursor stroke.
Yep, the warning stroke, TIA. Yep.
The warning stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Do I worry that, well, I'm just going to brush it off? But does that mean that the next time it's bigger, it's more massive? Is that really what happens? It's like a domino effect and things just get worse and worse every time?
It has the same causes. So if we're not investigating what caused those symptoms to come and go, that's when you lead to having the full-blown stroke. So the short answer of that is it could increase, it could be the same, it could be milder, it could be more severe, but either way, the risk factors are the same. We need to get in and take a picture of your brain. We need to take a picture of your heart. We need to do your labs. We need to do that workup to find out what's causing these symptoms.
I so appreciate when folks come in from Essentia Health so we can have these conversations, because I want not only farmers, but those who are listening as, the partners in the field to hear some of these things and realize that maybe we should take some preventative care. And we're going to visit about that when we come back from our bottom of the hour news. We're here with Chelsey and Molly. They are with stroke awareness and stroke educators. Well, I hope I said that right, with Essentia Health for the Fit Farmer Focus. We'll return in a few minutes. Landmark Companies, they are your local leader in farm drainage. They not only bring us the drainage difference the first Monday of every month, but additionally, we're part of the Flag of Farmer program with myself, Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Yesterday, we took some time out in western Cass County and eastern Barnes to drop off U.S. flags with farmers in the field so they could fly them from their equipment, whether it's your drills and air seeders, might just be in your shop or your farmyard. We love being able to connect with you and bring some flags out. We'll be joined later in the month by Geronimo Power in order to go do the same type of thing. But we hope you enjoy those flags and never be shy. If you're interested in helping get some flags to farmers in order for them to fly them high, give us a call here at the station or just drop me an email, ag@flagfamily.com. It is a busy month in the fact that it is Beef Month. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is Stroke Awareness Month as well. And we are so fortunate to have two ladies joining us from Essentia Health for our Fit Farmer Focus. Chelsey and Molly are here to talk about strokes. And there's different kinds of strokes, which most of us just think there's the one kind and it's bad, but it's more than that. So let's talk about the different ones if we can.
Sure. So there are three types of stroke. So the first one is the most common type of stroke we see, which is called an ischemic stroke. That's a fancy medical term for a clot. So a stroke that's caused by a clot. So what does that mean? A clot has either broken loose from somewhere in the body, maybe the heart, and has gone up through the vessels and into the brain, blocking oxygen and blood flow. Or that clot can actually occur in the vessels over time. So people who struggle with high cholesterol, smokers, diabetics, they can actually form clots in the vessels in their brain over time. So that's the most common type of stroke, is that sudden ischemic stroke caused by a clot. The second type of stroke that's not as common but still as bad is what we call a hemorrhagic stroke, or a lot of times people call it a brain bleed. And that's when over time, those little vessels that we all have in our brain, those little vessels can wear down. Number one risk factor for that is high blood pressure. High blood pressure, smoking, drug use, alcohol abuse. Over time, those vessels wear down until one day that vessel can't take the extra pressure anymore and it pops. And now we have blood on our brain, and that's what we call a hemorrhagic stroke. That's the one that Chelsey had alluded to earlier, terrible headache. And then Chelsey had also mentioned TIA, so transient ischemic attack. Those are those warning strokes. We used to call them mini strokes, but we now call them warning strokes. Somebody has a sudden neural problem, and then it goes away. That, again, is a sign that you need to get in and see your doctor to figure out what's causing these TIAs. So those are the three different types of strokes.
I like that you call it a warning stroke, because when we call them a mini stroke, it's like, oh, it only happened once. But it probably won't.
Correct.
It's coming back.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
When you were talking about the brain bleed, often after someone's been in a severe accident, you hear about that. You have a brain bleed. So can a stroke be secondary to something else that's happening within the body, like with severe injury, et cetera?
Yeah, so when we have injury to the brain, it's going to cause issues with the brain tissue, with the blood vessels. But the most common reason that we have a spontaneous bleed, meaning it just happens, is from high blood pressure, like Molly mentioned. And so when we're talking about a brain bleed related to stroke, we're often looking at their blood pressure and seeing that it's extremely high, and it's been extremely high for a really long time. And that's what actually caused the bleeding, not trauma.
Well, okay, so that was going to actually be kind of my next question, is if I just fall off the ladder from the combine and I hit my head, is that a hemorrhagic stroke? But what you're saying is there's probably a number of other life factors that
Yes.
are part of the problem before we get to that.
Right. We
Okay.
call that traumatic stroke. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to announce that after a doctor's visit this morning for a physical, my blood pressure is 106/64. So, woo-hoo, I'm
Excellent.
feeling pretty
Yes.
good,
Celebrate
ladies.
that.
Nice work.
Oh, don't you worry. I will, with something beef-wise. Okay, so let's talk about recovery, because like you said, after you have a stroke, it does not have to be, well, dear God, we're moving into long-term care, right? There's a lot of different things that can happen here differently. What are some of the things that you start doing at the hospital, and as well as then what can we be doing further out to keep stroke patients really moving towards a better quality of life?
Perfect. So actually, I'll let Chelsey talk about the therapy in the hospital, and then I can talk about the stroke support group that we offer at Essentia. So Chelsey, you want to talk about the therapy?
Excellent, sure can. So when you come to the hospital and have a stroke, and we know you have a stroke, regardless of what deficits you have or what symptoms we see, we are going to have you seen by a physical therapist, occupational therapist, and speech therapist. Stroke can cause physical symptoms. It can cause cognition issues or memory issues or problems comprehending. Or it can maybe cause problems with swallowing or just your fine motor skills. So each of those different therapists have a different specialty. So for example, our physical therapists, they're going to make sure you can get up, move around, do we call them activities of daily living, like getting ready for the day, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, that kind of thing. And then an occupational therapist is going to work on more of those fine motor skills like cooking or, writing, that kind of stuff. And then you have your speech therapist who's going to work on swallowing. How is your memory? Are you going to remember to turn off the burner when you're done cooking? That kind of thing. So they really work closely with you and decide what is the best option for this person now moving forward in the short term and the long term. So they may determine you need to go to just a skilled nursing facility for some rehab. They may determine, okay, you need a little bit more extra help. You're going to go to an inpatient rehab facility for about a month, and then we're going to see, can you go home after that? It could be you just need a little help at home. So we're going to do either some home health with a nurse or a therapist, or it could be, I'm going to clear you. You're doing great. Your symptoms are gone. And now you get to just go home and we'll follow up with you as a patient just with your primary doctor. So it just kind of depends on what that evaluation looks like in the hospital, but all three disciplines will see you when you're right after your stroke in that acute phase.
So many people fight that rehab because we're stubborn. I'll be fine.
You want to be home?
I can take care of it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to be at home.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just reassure people that you'll get home, but you'll get home faster if you just follow the rules a little bit?
Yes, it's crucial in that acute phase, so meaning right after you had your stroke, to get as much therapy as possible. That's how we rebuild the synapses in our brain, is that repetition, that therapy, really hitting it hard. And you think that you would go home and just do that, but you're tired and you don't have that motivation maybe, or just not the expert there to help motivate you to do those things. And so therapy is a great way, even if it's just short term, to rebuild those synapses in our brain to get as much function back as we possibly can.
I had a conversation this morning where a story was relayed to me about a stroke. And of course, the good news is this was an incredibly positive situation. This was an incident where, because someone happened to look at their watch, they knew at 7:27 p.m. their buddy who was with them came back from the men's room and was like bouncing off the wall, and his face was sagging on one side and was slurring his words and saying something's not right. Being in the presence of a medical professional who said, you are having a stroke, we're putting you in my car, and then calling ahead to the local hospital and saying, get the ambulance ready, this guy needs transfer to cath lab in Fargo. They had him at the cath lab within 43 minutes.
Excellent.
Tell me again, Molly, why is it so important in that golden hour to get someone to the cath lab or where they need to be for help?
Absolutely. So Chelsey and I, and actually our whole stroke team, live by the phrase, time is brain. We can help stroke patients. We have treatments for them. So that looking at the watch and when was that patient last at what we call last known well. So when was their baseline? When was their normal? That's when the clock starts, and up to 4.5 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, we can actually give these patients who have that ischemic stroke a clot busting medication and hopefully bust up the clot. And then, of course, up to 24 hours of last known well if the patient is having what we call a large vessel stroke, so where we actually have to go in and take the clot out. We can do that up to 24 hours, but care depends on last known well. When does that patient last at their baseline? That's how we're going to derive our care.
Is there a difference in how any of these symptomologies can happen, whether you're male or female? Is there something different to look for between the two?
No, symptoms are the same. Your risk factors differ a little bit, though. So women are at a higher risk of having a stroke than men.
Well, we're under stress every single day, Chelsey. Who are you kidding?
That's always Molly's joke. I'm kind of stealing Molly's thunder. That's usually her joke, is that we'll go do education and she'll say, all right, why are women at a higher risk? And our senior citizens will go, the men. But actually, it's hormones. It's hormone changes throughout our life. We actually live longer as well, and age is also a risk factor. After the age of 55, your stroke risk doubles every 5 years. So, I mean, with that being said, too, we kind of get a double whammy there.
Well, there's many things to consider and factor in, but I do want to talk about two very big positives. One is you have an upcoming walk that we want to know about, and then after someone tell me about the walk, and then we need to know how to find you both after today because I want to hear more success stories of people coming in saying, I heard you on the radio and it was worth my time to come here.
Absolutely. So, Chelsey had talked about what we do for patients in the hospital, and we have a phenomenal team that actually will also follow up with the patients afterwards. So once you leave our hospital, we're not done with you. Our provider will actually see you for a follow-up, and then I actually will call our patients and do follow-up. But one of the things that Chelsey and I love about the Essential Health Stroke Program is every month we do a stroke support group. So a stroke support group is for stroke survivors, their family members, friends, and it's pretty much to come together and talk about how the stroke has impacted their lives. We have people who have come for years, 13 plus years. We have people who just had a family member experience a stroke last fall. So the stroke support group is just for stroke survivors and their families to help support them. And we're very excited that this May is our 5th annual Essential Health Stroke Walk. And the walk is to show people that stroke is not the end. People can live life after a stroke. It has changed them, but we're all in this together. And so that's what the stroke walk is for. And so, Chelsey, do you want to mention what day it's on?
Yes, it's May 27th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Rusted Rec Center. And we welcome anyone who's been affected by stroke. So we hope that whether it's medical professionals, staff, patients themselves, whether or not, your loved one maybe has passed away even, we welcome everyone who wants to be part of that walk. It's symbolic. I think, like you mentioned earlier, Bridgette, you feel like it's the end. And so we want to show that it's not the end. We're continuing to do this education. We're continuing to show that our stroke survivors do have a life after stroke, even if it's been changed.
There are so many positives these days with what we can do in our healthcare. And some of the biggest positives, I think, are the awareness that we can bring to this and helping folks with their preventative care first and foremost. So this Fit Farmer Focus segment is so important, and I really appreciate Essential Health being a part of it, but also truly to Molly and Chelsey for taking the time to come in for the month of May, because this is our Stroke Awareness Month. And ladies, just thank you for being here today. Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Bridgette, and thank you for getting this Fit Farmer Focus up and running. I'm loving it. So.
We've had some fairly interesting discussions. Let's just say colonoscopy discussions as well as proctology have, well, I've learned how to keep a straight face and ask some really interesting questions. So you guys are easy.
Yes.
Okay.
Love it.
For everybody else, let's stay tuned because there's some information that just came from the governor's office in regards to hours of service for ag input. So we've got an extension on that, a couple other headlines I want to share. And I would give you a weather report, and the basis is, well, it's getting nicer this week. So good news there. We'll be back.
Hey guys, we've got another chilly day on tap today with a lot of cloud cover around and temperatures well below normal. We should be in the low to mid 60s this time of the year. Instead, we're going to be in the mid to upper 40s today, and we can't rule out an isolated rain or snow shower as we head into the afternoon with northwest winds at about 10 to 25. Tonight, we'll look for partly to mostly cloudy skies, mid to upper 20s. And as we head into Wednesday, not much better, but a little bit. We'll have winds out of the northwest 10 to 15 and highs right around 50. But things do improve for Thursday. More sunshine, highs around 60, and a little better for Friday with highs in the low to mid 60s and a big weekend coming up. We've got the fishing opener on Saturday, Mother's Day on Sunday. Now for Saturday, look for low 60s with partly cloudy skies. We can't rule out an isolated light shower in the morning, generally in north and northeast Minnesota. And then for Mother's Day, a cool front slips in. We'll drop off into the upper 50s, but dry conditions. And then warmer weather for next week with 60s and 70s back in the forecast.
All right, folks, as I promised, there is an announcement out of the governor's office for Kelly Armstrong. This was announced yesterday, May 4th, that there is an executive order waiving Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's hour of service restrictions for commercial motor vehicles that are carrying ag inputs. That order went in effect yesterday, Monday, May 4th, and will be in effect for 14 days. If you would like to see the link to the executive order, you can always email me, ag@flagfamily.com. I'd be happy to share that. But what it does is it allows drivers of commercial motor vehicles who are bringing in dry fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, seed, and other products to have waived their hours of service so they can get product to us on time, in time, so we can continue with a timely fashion for spring planting. This isn't unusual, happens rather frequently, especially if we start running late in the season and having difficulty getting product where it needs to go in a timely fashion. So, yep, that order was announced as of yesterday. Should work out great. If you're in the tractor and maybe you're in the shop working on equipment, but likely you're in a tractor somewhere, if you're looking for something that you want to listen to, the newest episode of the Agronomist Happy Hour popped up on Sunday night. That's available for you to pick up. Also, you can look at the Row Well. I also myself listen a lot to the Farm for Profit podcast. Also, I have picked up Barn Talk, which is another good one that's out there. So many great podcasts to listen to. Casual Cattle Conversations, for those of you who are in the beef industry, is another one that you might find useful and fun to want to listen to. Speaking of useful and fun things, I picked up some fun facts today. And a lot of them are certainly related to agriculture and rural life. But here we go. Tell me if you're surprised. It wasn't until 1925, so just 100 years ago, that over 50% of the households in the U.S. had electricity. Many folks were still running off generator power, and I bet some of you are thinking, you know what, my grandma and grandpa didn't even have it until post-World War II. So only 50% of households in 1925 were using electricity. So many were going to spend the next 20 years catching up. If you think about a radio and in-home plumbing, such as an in-home toilet, it wasn't until 1930 that 50% of homes in the United States actually had those two things. Talk about signs of wealth, a radio and indoor plumbing. Color TVs and air conditioning. So many folks would say, oh, that's just table stakes, right? We all have that in our homes. I can attest to it. I grew up in a house that did not have air conditioning, and it wasn't until 1974 that 50% of U.S. households had a color TV and air conditioning. We actually had the color TV before we got the air conditioning. Seems about right, though. It really does. And it wasn't until 1985 that 50% of U.S. households had a microwave. What would we do without a microwave? Now we not only have them in the kitchen, but we've got them out in the farm shop so we can warm things, warm up lunch or breakfast or whatever it might be. And every once in a while, I've seen some other things in the microwave that might be sort of sketchy, but it happens. Sometimes you gotta have a microwave handy. It was 2002 when 50% of U.S. households had a cell phone or a home computer. There's an interesting stat, 2022. So for those of you who've had a cell phone longer than that, congratulations. But I would say that was still kind of a new thing to many in that time frame. Thanks for joining me here today for Weather and Ag in Focus. It's been a fun hour, and I so much look forward to tomorrow as well. We're going to be joined by Gary Shields. He's with Northland Potatoes. We want to talk all things potatoes, spuds, and see how planting is going for them. Stay tuned for the Jay Thomas Show coming up right after this.